So welcome to my vlog thoughts. And the topic today, I'm going to talk about adoption of technology. So there's two items on the agenda for today. I'm going to talk about adopter categories and TAM. So first, let me just go quickly through the diffusion of innovations theory by Rogers. And what he does is, in this theory, he explains how over a period of time, an idea or product spreads through a specific population or social system. The end result of this diffusion is that people, as part of a social system, adopt a new idea, behavior, or product. Adoption means that a person does something differently than what they had done previously. Example, purchase or use a new product, acquire and perform a new behavior, etc. The key to adoption is that the person must perceive the idea, behavior, or product as new or innovative. It is through this that diffusion is possible. So let's tie it back into what the purpose uh, because I'm taking the course with Dr. Rob Power, and the end goal of this course is I've applied to do a presentation with the Education Computing Organization of Ontario. And I'm waiting to hear back, but if it's accepted, I would be presenting a workshop to other teachers and educators in August. Now, there's been a change in my plans. Originally, I was going to do the workshop on D2L, but I've decided to now do it on Pear Deck. So adoption of new idea, it's a process where some people are more likely to adopt the innovation than others. People who adopt an innovation early have different characteristics than people who adopt an innovation later. When promoting an innovation to a target population, it's important to understand the characteristics of the target population that will help or hinder adoption of the innovation. So in Rogers' model, there's 5 categories, these adopter categories. And while the majority of the general population tend to fall in the middle, so we're talking about the early majority and the late majority categories, it's necessary to understand the characteristics of the target population. When promoting an innovation, there are different strategies used to appeal to the different adopter categories. So the first one is innovators. So they have the financial resources, relationships with other innovators, ability to cope with high level of uncertainty, and they tend to be more cosmopolitan. So that's tied back into professional development. These are the people that are looking to try new ideas without any training at all. Then we have the early adopters. These are really key in getting your idea or technology adopted by others, and they're the early opinion leaders. They're respected by peers, higher social status and education level, more likely commercial interests, willing to borrow money. And they're key, and you can use these early adopters to train others because um, they they're willing to learn very quickly, um, and easy to train because they're very enthusiastic and they want to spread the good idea to others. Now you have the early majority. They have a deliberate willingness and high level interaction with peers, but seldom hold leadership positions. So with the early majority, when you're doing professional development with them, it's you have to spend more time explaining what the benefits of the technology are, like how it works, versus the innovators who will many times learn it themselves, and the adopt early adopters who take a lot of initiative. Then you have the late majority, and they take more. They're persuaded by pressure appears when most uncertainty is removed, and so they have to be, spend more time in training, more time convincing them, and they have to see that others have adopted the technology before um, they try it. Then you have the last category, laggards. They're persuaded by pressure appears when most uncertainty is removed. They're not willing to take much risk at all. So this group, when you're doing PD, they need the most guided learning. Now, another important model to understand is the technology acceptance model by Davis in 1989. There's two key components to understand. One is perceived usefulness, and the other is perceived ease of use. It's a model for predicting adoption of technology, not about the technology itself, but what we believe it can do. And the benefit of evaluating the role of external values that influence our beliefs. And it's predicated on the theory of reason action. So with the technology acceptance model, the perceived usefulness and the perceived ease of use, it's affected by external values, and then it affects the attitude towards using, which affects the behavioral intention use, which results eventually in the actual system use. So what are the limitations of the TAM model? It's designed for general use, not any particular profession. It has limited consideration of external factors and low descriptive richness to allow for conclusions to be drawn about adoption. Now, social factors, they're really key among students and young people because social usefulness is a variable related to technology acceptance. So, for example, I think about you know young people in Snapchat, and the social dimension is so important in the adoption of a technology like that. Other social factors are enjoyment, and a big component of social factors is the technology as a status symbol or giving the user a better social image, and also the presence of lead users within the adopter community. And if we tie this back to the model we discussed earlier, we're talking about early adopters are very key in encouraging adoption. Now, one thing also to consider is the technology mandated or voluntary, and there's greater adoption if the technology is something that is mandated, of course, because with educators, if the education's adopting new technology, um, you have no choice. But a technology like Pear Deck is voluntary, so there's a lot more effort involved in trying to get more educators to adopt the technology. In terms of facilitation, it's important um, in TAM for training, for making sure there is enough IT support. There's flexibility and integration within the system. There's convenience of access, and so especially with Pear Deck, it's important that students and teachers all get easy access to the technology. Um, Experience is important, self-efficacy, the can-do attitude, so teachers believe that in their own ability to use it. And also because we're talking an educational framework, the security of data is always important and privacy considerations. Um, More in terms of commercial uh, applications, there are financial incentives. Now, in terms of compatibility, when the technology functions doesn't align with your methods of working. So, for example, with Peer Deck, in terms of implementation, you really need like a blended classroom environment, and for it to be effective in increasing student engagement, because students need to be able to be facing the screen when they're interacting and and giving their answers on Pear Deck. Okay, so this is the end of my vlog. In later vlogs or blogs, I'm going to get into other models. I'm going to explain more as we develop ideas about, Pear Deck, the technology itself, and then connect it more to models regarding professional development for adult learners.